All right, great. Glad to hear that we have a lot of people joining us, and I'm really excited to go ahead and kick off today's webinar. My name is Lucy, and I'm a Customer Success Manager here at monday.com. It is worth noting that I have two of my colleagues with me, Crystal and Brett, who are going to be helping to answer any questions and just assisting today as well. So you have three of us here today. Today you've joined the advanced theme webinar that's all focused around managing work requests. Okay, so this is going to be a really great webinar specifically relevant to teams that are serving the requests of other teams in the organization or working closely with other departments or maybe even external team members that you partner with on work request and work request management. How this webinar is going to work is we're going to have 30 minutes about where I'll walk you through this workflow and building this workflow in monday.com. And then we'll try to have about 30 minutes for the Q&A portion. I definitely want to get to answer all of your questions. I do ask that you go ahead and put all questions in the Q&A on the Zoom, not in the chat. So similar to where the chat was, you'll see a Q&A box, and that's where your questions should go. That will help me to get to as many questions as I can answer today. The chat, they do tend to get a bit lost, so please go ahead and put them in the Q&A. Just to go ahead and chat about what we will be covering today. We're going to be talking about all things managing work requests. So this is, as I said, particularly relevant to teams serving requests of other teams in your organization. Let's say you're a design team or a creative team who may produce creative assets for other departments. Let's say you're working in real estate and property management. You receive a lot of work requests from the tenants in the buildings that you manage. Maybe you work in operations and you really want to build out a process to streamline various requests for office supplies or IT maintenance or even booking conference rooms. Things like that. That's what we're going to be talking about today. All right, I am interested to hear a little bit more about the industries that you folks are joining us from. So if you don't mind in the chat, just tell us a little bit more about maybe the industry you're joining and your location. E-commerce, tech, telecoms, a few folks in retail. Great. Staffing. Awesome. All right. We really have such a diverse audience here today, and that's super exciting. monday.com is such a versatile tool and can be applicable to many different industries, and work request management can map onto that as well. These are going to be our topics we're going to be covering today. We're going to be looking at the forms view of monday.com and how that can help us. We're going to utilize automations as well as integrations to help with transparent communication and triaging of requests. We'll talk about search and filter, so that way you can manage your board and potentially make reports from your board. We'll link to other boards via the mirror column. And as I said at the end, you can always ask me anything. As always, here are some of our help resources. We are always here to help. We do have a lot of folks on the call today, so if we don't get to every question, definitely send us an email to support@monday.com. We are here to help and want to assist you as much as we can. All right, let's go ahead and dive into the platform. monday.com is going to help you to nail down a process and maintain transparent communication between your stakeholders, which in this sense will be the requesters and you and your team. For my use case today, I'm going to say that I'm the head of a creative team. Okay, so I manage a team of designers, and we are responsible for producing many different assets that we receive from our organization and have to disseminate out on time. We have to transparently communicate with our stakeholders, and we really have to manage the entire process. So here is a board that I built as an example of maybe something this team would use. And this is where the requests are going to be coming into. All parties can use monday.com to see what needs to be done to prioritize the requests and to remain up to date on where things stand. In this board, you'll see that I have three groups. I have my new requests group, I have my active requests group, and I have my completed requests group. We're going to use the form view to take in new requests. This view is going to turn the board into a fillable form that can be sent out it can be posted as a link, or maybe even embedded into a website. So we'll start with this, and this is how we're going to take in new requests. But first, we must understand the structure of the board, because that's exactly what the forms view does. It pulls the board and the structure of the board into a fillable form. So let's go ahead and review how I built this board. The way I built this board was just an understanding of all of the information I was going to need. I'm sure that there are many times you get a request and it comes via email and it's missing crucial information and crucial details. This then kicks off a long email thread with the requester going back and forth to understand some more specifics. Well, here on monday.com, you can build the form that includes every single detail that you will need for that request. So to start, I wanted to know who made the request. And for this, I just used a text column. Next, I wanted to know the email address of the requester. So here I added in an email column where I can go ahead and have the requester put in their email address. This is going to help me to communicate effectively with the requester as their items move from new to active and even to complete. I made a status column that is going to tell me the request type. And I went through and customized these labels, clicking on Add Edit Labels and customizing these labels to reflect the different types of requests that I get. So for example, is this a request for email marketing, maybe for a social media post, for a specific logo that I need to design? This status column is going to become a drop-down menu on my form. So you can customize these labels to fit your workflow. Next, I added in a date column. This is going to kind of be a due date, understanding when this request is needed by. I have a long text column for specific notes on the request, maybe for, in my example, a size requirement, a color suggestion, anything kind of like that. I have a files column where the requester can upload specific files that would aid in my understanding of the request. Maybe it's a particular artwork they want included. Maybe it's a photo of the incident that I need to then go kind of handle or tackle or something like that. But that is done via a files column. So now this is the information that was crucial for me to know from my requesters. But there is a little bit more information that I'm going to need for my team specifically. So for this, I added in additional columns that will include the information I need for my team. These are going to be blinded from the form, which I'll show you later. To start, to add accountability, I added in a people column where I'm going to be able to to assign my designer. I renamed this column designer right here, and this is where I can assign different designers to work on each project. In order to visually understand the priority of the request, I added in a rating column, renaming it priority, and this is where I can select if it's high priority with 5 stars, low priority with 1 star. And lastly, I have a status column that shows me the phase that this request is in. So is it new, is it active, or is it complete? And just a teaser, we'll use automations with these statuses to move these requests throughout the board. So that's coming later. All right, so that was just a review of how the board is built. Now let's go ahead and put this into Forms view. To do so, we are going to go to Add View, and this is going to launch our Views Center. Here you can see there are many different views, but the one relevant for today is going to be the Form view. Press Open in Board. And I have a logo now right at the top that is my Forms view. Once it's added initially, it doesn't need to be added again. It's just right up here to be accessible. This is going to be, I'm going to click on my creative requests, and this is going to be how I'm going to intake all of the different requests. So let's go ahead and review the form that I'm going to be sending out to receive these requests. First, I'm going to go ahead and customize it. So you can see right here, I put in specific instructions. All ideas welcome, be as specific as possible. Weekly submissions due by Friday at 10 a.m. Maybe I'm going to change that and say, submissions due Monday at 4. Something like that. When I click out, my instructions are saved right here. Okay, I can also add in a company logo up here where I'm able to put in the actual logo of my company and my organization, have it maybe be a bit more branded. I can go through item by item and change the name without changing the board. So this I want to say, you know, requested by, email of requester, add in a description. Please include entire email here. So on and so forth. You can see that my status column for request type has become a drop-down menu that will be fillable for any of my requesters to fill out. Okay, I also can select what is on the form and what is not on the form. So here you can see that the priority column is currently hidden. If I wanted to show it for the requesters to weigh in on their priority, I could select this I and it becomes visible on the form. Again, deselecting the I can take it off the form. It remains on the board, but is no longer on the form. I can check something as required, so that way it has to be submitted, or non-required, so on and so forth. Okay, let's go ahead and take a note of the settings over here, which I access just by going to this gear in my forms view. And these are going to be the different settings, further customization that I can do for this form. The first option is which group answers should funnel into. For me, it's going to be new requests, but I could have had answers funnel into any of the different groups on my board. I can also customize a thank you message. So we've received your request. We'll quickly get to work on this. Adding in just one more line right here. I can customize if individuals should be able to complete more than one or not, as well as our newest feature, presenting it into survey mode. So if you want individuals to be able to see how far along they are on the form itself, survey view is a really good option of that. All right, so these are all different ways that we can kind of customize the form and really make it our own and most applicable for the requests that we get in our organization. Next, we're going to generate the shareable link by going to Share Form. And here I have two links. The first is a shareable link that I can copy and then send out to different requesters. And the second is an embedded link. If I wanted to embed this form into other websites or landing pages that I have in my organization. All right, so let's go ahead and see how this works in action. I'm going to copy my shareable link and open it in another browser. And here is my form. You can see all of the edits I've made for the instructions, things I've blinded and unblinded, so on and so forth. So request title, new request example. Request type, my dropdown, maybe I want a logo here, needed by July 29th. So on and so forth. If I needed to add a file, I could do that here from my computer. In this case, I'm not going to add a file, and I can go ahead and dictate, what the priority is. Pressing submit, I receive that thank you message that I customized. And when I go back to my board, you can see that here is the example that I just filled out. Right here, added as a new item in my new requests group. It has all of the relevant information that I need, and that's how I do proper intake of my requests. This helps you to maintain transparent communication as well as avoid that back and forth and those long email threads of understanding, what the different requirements are and things like that. All the information is just pre-populated right here. Now, once I have these responses in, I can complete the areas that were specific for my team. So getting in this new request, I'm going to go ahead and assign it to Julia. I'm going to change the priority or maybe adjust it, and I'll mark it as new. Okay, so this is how we take in our new requests via the form view. Any questions with the form view, definitely go ahead and put those in the Q&A. We want to be sure that everyone's really clear on how the form view can work and can help out for intake of new requests. Now that we have many requests on the board, how do we best manage them? And for this, we're going to use monday.com's automations to best manage the board and to triage it. So let's go ahead and click into our automations, which is this robot icon right at the top of the board in my creative requests board. And when I go to add automations, here are all of the different automations recipes that we have available. Now, automations work in a very kind of specific, simple way. They work in a trigger and an action. So there's a particular trigger on the board that causes an action to occur, okay? Just using this as an example, when a date arrives, notify someone. The date arriving is our trigger, and the action is to notify somebody. That's how all of these different recipes work. We have so many different automations recipes. I would really recommend scrolling through the Automation Center and finding one that might be really relevant for you. They can be applicable to so many different use cases, from notifications to moving items around the board. I really can't say enough about automation, so definitely check them out. For today, I'm going to show you how to set up 2 automations that I think would be particularly helpful in this workflow, but definitely add in additional as you see fit. So let's go ahead and set an automation that's going to notify me when a new request comes in. That will keep me on top of assigning new requests and the work that I have coming in without putting the onus on me to check the board every day or some type of manual reminder like that. For this, I'm going to use the automation when a new item is created, notify somebody. Okay, so that's this automation right here. Back to our trigger and our action. When a new item is created, that's our trigger, and the action is to notify somebody. Let's go ahead and walk through how we set this up. So I've selected that this is going to be the automation I want to use. I'm going to go ahead and add it to my board, and any of the underlined fields become something that I customize. So in this case, notify. Well, what do I want the notification to say? For me, I want it to say the item name or attention. There is a new request, and I want some details about the request. Item name submitted by the name of the requester, and it is this certain request type. Who do I want this to go to? I can customize that. In this case, I think I want it to go to myself, but maybe I want it to go to another team member. Maybe I want it to go to someone in the assignee column, a team on the account, a guest, so on and so forth. For this, I'm going to go ahead and assign myself as who it should go to. So now I have my automation customized. When a new item is created, it's going to notify with this message, me. When I press add to board, the automation becomes active on my board. I'm going to get a notification 2 ways. First, I'm going to get a bell notification on my left panel right here. I'm also going to get an email notification that's going to come directly to my email with that customized message. If I need to edit the automation, I do so here, delete it, or turn it on and off, I can do so here. Okay, so now I'm able to stay on top of my requests without always just having to go back and manually kind of check the board. Let's set up another automation that's going to help me best to triage the board and stay on top of which requests are active and which requests are complete, so on and so forth. Back to my add automation, finding in the recipe here. For this, I'm going to use when a status changes to something, move pulse to a certain group. So scroll down. Okay, this one. When a status changes to something, move item to group. When the status changes, that's my trigger, and the action is moving item to group. Again, I customize each of the underlined fields. So when a status, which status, for me it's this one, changes to active, I want to move the item to the active requests group. Add this to board. Now let's go ahead and see this one in action. So here I have one request at the top, a new logo for a product launch. It's currently in my new group, but when I move it to active, you can see automatically it jumps down to my active requests group. Let's do this other one as my example. Automatically jumps down to my active requests group. All right, so I've used automations to ensure that all my board is really working effectively, flowing effectively. Requests aren't getting backlogged in this new requests group, but they are moving throughout. I'm now going to partner this with an integration that is going to allow me to have really transparent communication with my external stakeholders. So I want the requester to know the status of their request. I want them to know who's working on it, get some key information. That way they can kind of be confident in their request and that it's being handled without me and my team getting chased down all the time asking for an update. To do this, I'm going to use an integration. Integrations are monday.com working with external software. So for this use case, I'm going to go ahead and use Gmail. And along the same lines as the automations, our integrations also work with a trigger and an action. So let's go ahead and set that one up as an example. For integrations, I click on this plug icon, select the application that I'd like to integrate with. In this case, it's Gmail. And here are all my different recipes based on that trigger action model. For this integration, I'm going to use when status changes to something, email someone. This is going to help me to notify the requester of where their project stands. Okay, this one right here. When status changes to something, email someone. I'm going to add it to board. First, I need to sync to a Gmail account. Okay, now that I'm all synced up, each of the underlying components I can customize. So when the status changes to active, I want to send an email. What do I want the email to say? Subject line, your request is being worked on. Hi, let's do requester name, your new request worked on. Here are the details. Request type, due by, due date, notes. I'm almost building out like a little receipt of the request. Designer is on it and will update you accordingly. So this is going to be my email. And who should that go to? Well, it can go to anybody internally, but what's really cool here is that it can go to the person in the email column. So that's why I had them fill out on the form their email address, because now this integration can trigger an email that I've customized to the email of the requester. And this will happen automatically based on this trigger. Okay, update integration. And here it is on my board active. And as I change these statuses from new to active, those emails are going to go ahead and be set out. Now, there are many, many other integrations and automations you can set up. I just wanted to go ahead and show you an example of 3 of them. The setup is really all the same. So now it's just kind of going through the different options that we have and figuring out which might be best for you and your workflow. All right. Let's move on to search and filter. So while working with this board, it'll probably be important to understand how you can filter down the board to understand maybe who on your team has a capacity to handle a new request. Maybe you want to see what your most urgent work requests are. Or maybe you need to assess everything that's been completed and kind of get an understanding of what your team has accomplished thus far. This we're going to do via the search and filter on the board, where we can filter the board down by certain variables. Okay, so let's go ahead and, for example, see all the requests that we have coming up this month. By going up to the top of the board, search and filter here, pressing on the filter, I'm able to select how I'd like to filter down the board. I want to see everything that I have going on this month. This filter is applied, pulling in the due date column, and I can see everything going on this month. Maybe I want to see everything going on this month that's also high priority, so I can understand really what we have to work on and what we need to kind of get done quickly. These 2 filters are now applied, filtering down by this month as well as by the priority. I can export this to Excel if I need to kind of take this data out of the platform. I also can clear out the filter and filter by other things. Understanding maybe if Julia is overloaded, I filter down by Julia as my designer, and I can see she has one new request as well as 2 active. She can probably handle a little bit more. You can also filter right here by person just by clicking on this person icon. That's going to take in anybody assigned to the board for quick filtering by person. Okay, this is going to really help you to work with the board and understand kind of different variables. Maybe you want to see how often someone within your organization is requesting something, if they're abusing the system or something like that. Or maybe you want to really see how many logo requests you have, so on and so forth. You get the picture. Search and filter is going to help you to do that by many different variables and combinations. Okay. Now let's move on to linking this board to a different board. So this right here is for my intake of requests, but my team, as they're working, we work in an agile manner where we work off of an iteration sprint board that helps us to manage our work in 2-week intervals. So I have a separate board that my team uses to track what they are currently working on. I'm gonna go ahead and pull that one up now. Here is my iteration board. So you can see it's separated into a backlog as well as our current sprint, what we're currently working on. Now, as my items move into active and my sprint is planned, I'm going to need to move items or at least have them represented both on my intake board as well as on this new iteration board. This really shows our day-to-day work comparative to the previous board that shows our intake of new requests. Let's see how we can go ahead and manage that workflow. To start, as I get a new request and it becomes active, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate the request, taking the duplicate and moving it to my iteration board. Selecting, let's put it in the current sprint. Okay, you can see that it showed up here. Edit it to take out the copy. And here it is on my new iteration board that I can work from. This board is set up to be much more process oriented, okay? So it focuses on tracking kind of key details that can help see this task through to completion. I'm using a people column to track my designer as I was before, as well as 3 status columns showing different phases of work, a timeline column to show the span of work or the few days that it's going to take to complete this. And lastly, I have a tags column here where I'm able to tag the different clients that we work with in case I want to filter down by how many things do I have going on for client 1, how many things do I have for client 2, so on and so forth. Okay, so that's how this board is set up. Now I want to be able to create a link between the 2 boards because they are connected, and that will help me to kind of have an established connection between where my requests are coming in and what I'm currently working on and what my team is focused on. This is going to increase transparency and accountability through creating this connection. So to do so, we're going to add in the mirror column, and the mirror column does just that. It links items from one board to another, in my case, from the iteration board to my requests intake board. It also can satellite values from a board into another. I'll go ahead and add an example here so you can really see what this looks like in action. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and add in this column by going to my column center, more columns, and in this case, adding in the mirror. And the way that I configure this is first I need to establish a link to a different board. So in this case, I'm going to establish a link to my creative requests board that I have right here. Now it's asking me which columns from the other board would I like to mirror, maybe for easy accessibility. So I want to create that link as well as mirror maybe who it's requested by and the request type, as well as maybe the files would be helpful. Okay, when I press done, you can see that I have added in now a few columns. The first is going to be that initial link to the other board. And then it's the 3 columns that I personally chose to mirror. Now, of course, I could have chosen any columns to mirror or none to mirror, but for this example, I wanted to show 3 different ones that I've chosen to mirror. So let's go ahead and create those connections. I click into the cell, and I'm able to search for that other request. So in this case, I'm going to search for my Easter. Okay, exactly. Email came for campaign for Easter. Clicking this, you can see it's automatically populated with a link as well as a satellite of those values, who it was requested by and the request type. This request doesn't seem to have any files, so that's why that did not populate. Maybe that one's not on there. So on and so forth. Okay. This is an example of kind of how that works. I've linked to my creative requests as well as 3 different values that I'm satelliting. Now, what can I do once that's on this iteration board? First, this link, if I click on it, it will launch a card view of the item on the other board in case I want kind of quick reference. So this is linked to my creative requests board, and here I have a card view where I'm able to see what group it's in, who requested it, and all of the information that lives on that other board. I also can change the information here. So let's say I realize this isn't a blog post, this is actually a banner. I switch it on my card view, it updates on the original board as well as on my mirror. I can switch the email and it'll update any kind of value. And this really is going to eliminate that double work. So, and create for easy referencing of the other columns. I also can change the columns via these mirrors. So again, if I wanted to change this status from email marketing to logo, when I click back to the other board, you can now see that that's become a logo. This really does eliminate that double work and allows for just really kind of quick reference between the two. Okay, so definitely let us know any questions you have on the link to item column or the mirrors. This is a really great tool for linking boards and creating continuity in your workflow between 2 separate boards where you may intake requests as well as want to update values in one place. All right. We're just at that 30-minute mark. I do see we have lots of questions that I want to get to. I have one more topic to cover, and that's going to be our charts view. But this is our kind of last topic, and then we're going to get to that Q&A. So put any of those questions in the Q&A. I'm really excited to kind of dive in and explore those questions with you. The last thing I want to cover with you today is going to be our charts view. And this is going to be a cool way to kind of show reporting of your work requests, if that's something that you're required to do within your organization. So I'm back on my creative requests board here, and just going to mix it up a bit in terms of the logos. But by going to add view and chart view, this is where I'm able to really show kind of visual representation of my data. So for example, if I need to report back on the types of requests we get, or maybe how urgent the requests are, or see trends over time in terms of the due dates of when our busy season is and when it's a little bit lighter for the team, I can do all of this with the charts view. By, again, clicking add to board, I now have a charts icon up here at the top of my board. I'm able to go ahead and customize my chart using these settings. So I want a pie chart. I want it to pull in the request type. And here I have a chart easily generated where I can see that of all of our requests, 22% are within email marketing, 22% also within logos, social media. We have a pretty good distribution here on my team, but our most requests are within banners and posters. So maybe as I'm looking to staff up my team, I hire a specialist in this area. I can quickly change the chart to a bar chart, a line chart. here I go ahead and I look at this, due date column. So I can see that this springtime is really our big spike around the end of June through July and beginning of August. That's going to be our spike with 2 whopping requests, where we can go ahead and really staff up the team and be sure we're prepared to take in all of those requests. All right, so this is the chart view, really helpful for reporting on your requests as well as understanding your data a little bit better from monday.com. All right, thank you so much for being such an attentive, amazing audience. That was all I had kind of ready to cover on my end, but thank you so much to everybody for joining today.